Which handcuff running back is the best to roster for the 2024 fantasy football season? We are talking about that in today's video. As always, give us a like and subscribe. Thank you so much for helping us get to 500 subscribers. That's awesome. And yeah, help us keep growing. We put out content, both Dynasty and Redraft, all year long. And as I said, we are making a tier list today. I don't know if I said that, but we are making a tier list today. All 32 backup running backs for all 32 NFL teams, and we are ranking them into tiers. Now, I don't do the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 thing. I kind of group these players together in terms of their situation and the type of players that they are. As you'll see, it will make sense as the video goes along. The first group and the first tier I have here is 1A, 1B. These guys aren't really handcuffs. These are players that the teams are either really good offensively or going to run the ball enough to where you can start both these guys easily, and they're both going to be, starters in your rosters week in and week out, despite them sharing the backfield. It's guys like David Montgomery. Now, I chose this second running back for almost all of these as the running back that's going second according to Fantasy Pros ADP, half PPR. Montgomery is obviously going, he's all the way down at the right at the looks like at the 4-5, no, at the 5-6 turn, whereas Gibbs is at the 1-2 turn. So that's why I have Monty considered as the handcuff. Although he's not a handcuff. He's in a 1A, 1B situation. It's kind of funny. Montgomery is probably going to lead the Lions in carries if they're both healthy. It's kind of funny to think of him as like the second guy, but I get why. It's just funny. Devon Achane, he's actually the one where Mostert is going well after Achane here and in ADP. So I actually put Achane first, even though he is going first in drafts. I should have had Mostert on here, but I think Achane is kind of considered as like the 1B of the offense. He just has more upside for people. Again, this is a situation where it's a 1A, 1B situation. You can start both these guys easily. No problem starting these guys. You're going to be happy with the production if they're healthy. I put Jaylen Warren in this list. He did get hurt, which kind of sucks. We'll see if he's going to miss, how much time he's going to miss, if he's going to miss any time. But when he's healthy, and I'm kind of approaching this from a situation that everyone's healthy, Jaylen Warren is in a 1A, 1B situation. He actually outscored Najee Harris last year in PPR. So I don't know if a lot of people realize that, but he is in a true 1A, 1B situation here. Najee Harris is probably going to lead the team in carries, but I wouldn't be surprised if Warren had more touches. Warren had 150 carries last year. I don't know, it's something that we don't really think about. He had about 100 less than Najee, of course, but I could see them getting a little bit more closer. Najee probably does lead in touches, but it would be close. Austin Eckler, I believe, is in a 1A, 1B situation here. Austin Eckler. I just feel like he's in a little bit of a 1A, 1B situation, and people aren't treating it that way. I mean, they kind of are, because both Eckler and Brian Robinson are literally back-to-back in the ADP. 92nd overall for Robinson, 91st overall for Eckler. They're literally back-to-back. I think Eckler can be sneaky good this year, especially in PPR leagues, because I do think he's going to get a lot of receptions. Not a lot, but he's going to lead this team in receptions. He's still going to carry the ball, 10 times a game, 8 to 10 times a game, get his 3-4 catches, hopefully. And that could turn into a decent season. I do think Eckler's being a little bit slept on this year. Obviously, for him being a huge disappointment. Tajay Spears, seemingly in a 1A, 1B situation with Tony Pollard. That's what the coaches have been saying all year long or all offseason. That's how they approached it in preseason. It was literally like, it wasn't drive by drive. It was like play by play. Pollard gets a play and Spears gets a play. Pollard gets a couple plays, Spears gets a couple plays, which I do think both these guys, both Pollard and Spears, can succeed in a situation like that if they are efficient. And we've seen Pollard be efficient before with minimal touches. That 2022 season with Zeke, he had a less than 200 carries. Right, he had less than 250 total touches, and he was the top 10 running back. I can see a situation where these guys are both kind of like that. So, moving right along here, we have a couple more in this. We have Jaleel McLaughlin, I think, is going to be in a 1A, 1B situation. Still not 100%. This is the one where I'm least confident in out of this group of the 1A, 1Bs. Just because I don't really know what are they really going to do with that running back room. Is it 2 guys or is it 3 guys? And that's the concern. Is it also Samaje Perine or is it Javonte and Jaleel? If it's Javonte and Jaleel, the fact that they throw the ball, Sean Payton offenses, they target the running back like over 30% of the time. And that's not just with the Broncos. That's history with the Saints. Samaje Perine had 50 catches. Javonte had 50 catches. Jaleel had over 30. So we had like 130 catches between their top 3 running backs. So if there's 2 guys, I'm confident and they can both be fantasy relevant. My worry is that there's going to be 3. I'll put them in a 1A, 1B right now, but that one I'm least confident about. And then I have Jerome Ford here, who's in a little bit of a weirder situation because he's kind of the 1A of the 1A, 1B until Chubb comes back, which, could be not until October. That could be that late if he gets put on the PUP. Even if Chubb is back, just look at Kareem Hunt's usage over the years in Cleveland with a prime and healthy Kareem Hunt. 2021, you're looking at it like Kareem Hunt was getting 10 to 15 carries and, 2.5, 3 catches a game with a healthy Nick Chubb there. Like, they're going to run the hell out of the ball. That's what they want to do. And the Browns offense always runs the ball with 2 running backs. So I do think he's in a little bit of a 1A, 1B situation. Now, I'm not saying, Jerome Ford is equal to David Montgomery or HN. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying their situations are similar. Obviously, I would rather have, guys like HN and Montgomery over Jerome Ford. The next tier here is what I call league winners. These are the guys where they're not in a 1A, 1B situation, but man, if they get, how can I make that? Can I center that? If they get if there's an injury to the number 1 guy, these guys could be winning you leagues, in my opinion. These are the guys where I think they should be going is close to around round 10. Like round 10, where they're kind of like your probably second or third bench player, because the upside for them is through the roof. To me, it's guys like Blake Corum. Blake Corum, I don't think is going to do much with a healthy Kyren there. He'll get his carries, he'll get his touches, but I would be surprised if he had more than 120 carries with a healthy Kyren. Now, if Kyren gets hurt, which is the big concern with Kyren, and he was hurt last year, his only season with, kind of being the main guy. If he gets hurt, the starting running back for the Rams is just absolute gold. Like whoever it is, Todd Gurley, Cam Akers for a stretch, obviously Kyren last year, absolute gold. I want the starting running back for the Rams, and I do think if Kyren goes down, Corum just kind of plugs and plays in. Is he as good as Kyren? I don't know, but he's definitely going to get the opportunity. Chase Brown, I put it here. Now, Chase Brown's interesting. He could be a 1A, 1B situation. I don't know, and anyone that tells you they know how the Bengals situation is going to play out is lying to you. I don't really know what they're going to be doing. Honestly, I really don't know what they're going to be doing. Is it going to be a 1A, 1B? That's not the history that we've seen with this iteration of the Bengals and Zach Taylor and the Bengals. It's always been just one guy. It's always Joe Mixon 70% of the snaps, and then they have a third down back. Is Chase Brown just the third down back? Is Zach Moss just the third down back? Is it a 1A, 1B? I'll put him in league winner handcuffs because if Zach Moss does get hurt, and, they hand the reins over to Chase Brown, well, then you just get like basically Joe Mixon, right? Like Joe Mixon has never been super efficient or even good in terms of yards per carry. He just gets the volume. And Chase Brown could get that if there's a Zach Moss injury, which to me is a league winner. If you're getting a potential top 12 to 15 guy with your backup, a backup running back who is an injury away from being a top 12 to 15 guy from that point on, that's what I call a league winner. Zach Charbonnet, I think a lot of people expected him to be more of a 1A, 1B. I don't really see that at all. I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's Kenneth Walker's backfield, and I hope they just give him the reins and just let Kenneth Walker be awesome because I think Kenneth Walker is so much better than Zach Charbonnet, personally. I'm not a huge Zach Charbonnet fan, but if something were to happen to Kenneth Walker, I could see Zach Charbonnet, because I do believe in the Seahawks offense this year, I could see Zach Charbonnet being a league winner. Trey Benson, this is a little bit tougher. This is one I don't believe in as much just because of how they're using him in preseason. And I know people are like, no, preseason means nothing. And I get it. Like if a player looks amazing in preseason, you definitely have to take that with a grain of salt. But their usage and how they're using their players is very telling, right? That tells us a lot about what teams want to do when the first team offense is out there. How are they using the players? James Conner has been resting, and how it's been working out. You would think it's going to be all Trey Benson. It's not. It was Amari DiMercado comes in on third down. So I think Trey Benson really isn't going to do much unless James Conner gets hurt. And then even then, I don't know if he's going to be a league winner in the sense of guys like Blake Corum or Zach Charbonnet, where they get all the carries and all the catches, all the receptions, 3 down back type of stuff. I don't know if I see that for Trey Benson, but I still put him here because I do think he's good and I do think he's talented. I put Rico Dowdle on this list. Now, he's another interesting one. Is he a 1A, 1B? How are they going to use him and Zeke? I don't really know because they're resting their guys. I think Zeke is probably going to lead this team in carries, as gross as that sounds. I wouldn't be surprised if it is Dowdle and it is more of a 1A, 1B situation. I just don't know. I think Zeke definitely gets the goal line work. And then in terms of catches, Zeke is the much better pass protector than Dowdle. So, like, if Dowdle's not getting catches or touchdowns, I don't really think I can put him here. All these guys are going to have either catch or touchdown opportunity, in my opinion. All these guys. Dowdle, I don't think is going to have that. I could be wrong. Definitely could be wrong. However, if something were to happen to Zeke, which could definitely happen considering his age, Rico Dowdle is on one of the best offenses in the league. So he, to me, is considered a league winner if they give him the reins. And then I put Tyler Algier here. I put Tyler Algier because we've seen Tyler Algier be good before. I believe in this Falcons system. It comes from the Rams system, and we know how they use their running backs and what they produce. I really do believe in this Falcons system. It's going to be Bijan, but if something were to happen to Bijan, I think they plug in Tyler Algier, and I think Tyler Algier is awesome if that happens. So I definitely think he should be draftable. He's going even later than these guys like Blake Corum. This is why I do these tier lists because – sometimes we start to think in a linear way. Tier 1 is greater than tier 2, and I can never draft anyone in tier 2 before all the tier 1 guys are gone. And I don't think we should necessarily think about it this way. Tyler Algier and Blake Corum is never going to be in the same tier for people that just listed as tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Never. And my logic is, well, hey, I can get a player who I think has a very similar situation to Blake Corum. I can get him around 14 versus Blake Corum in round 10, right? You see the difference there? A 4-round discount on a guy who I think has a very similar situation. Now, again, am I saying that you should be taking Algier in the same round as Corum? Not necessarily, but what I'm saying is if you want a backup running back that is an injury away from being a league winner, I think these are your guys, and you can get them in different parts of the draft. Moving on, I have the next tier of guys, solid starters. I'm a little bit less, some of these I'm a little bit, maybe I'm underselling them a little bit. We'll see. It's guys like Braylon Allen. I put Braylon Allen in solid starters because one, he's a rookie, but so is Trey Benson. He's a rookie as well. And I get that argument, but I'm also not 100% convinced that if something were to happen to Breece, it's all going to Braylon Allen. Like I do believe it's going to go with Blake Corum. However, I do think Braylon Allen is the favorite to be the RB2. However, in their second preseason game, they were using Isaiah Davis in more with the starters, or as like the first team. They started off with Isaiah Davis. I think he started the game actually, and then Braylon Allen came in, and then Isaiah Davis got a drive. Isaiah Davis is another rookie, by the way, from South Dakota State. They drafted in the 5th round. They drafted Braylon Allen in the 4th, Isaiah Davis in the 5th. I'll put Braylon Allen as a solid starter. If he is the true backup and they're going to give him the workload, then I potentially put him in league winner. So there is that case of like, he might be a potential league winner, and he's like going undrafted right now in fantasy draft. So keep that in mind. Ray Davis, I put in here. I like Ray Davis a lot. I know the big knock on him is that he's old. Doesn't really matter for me if he's good for a 2-3 year stretch. That's all I really care about. He looks good. I know it was in preseason, things like that, but he does look good. His college tape looks good. If something were to happen to James Cook, he kind of profiles as that back who can kind of do it all. He can run between the tackles. He can take 20 carries a game. He can catch the ball if he needs to. Now, I put him in solid starter because, he's one, I don't know. They're going to probably mix in other running backs like a Ty Johnson or something, the Bills. And two, Josh Allen's going to steal touchdowns because that's just what Josh Allen does. So Trey Sermon, I put here again. I think he's just a solid starter. By solid starter, I mean like he's probably going to be a top 20, top 24 running back. He's going to be a mid to low end RB2. These guys, in my opinion, are going to be mid to low end RB2s. They're not quite league winners, top 12 guys, but and maybe they are, and maybe I'm wrong, but these are guys that are I think at worst, if there's something were to happen to the number one running back, they're top 24 guys with a chance, because anyone that has volume as a running back has a chance at being a top 12 guy. Look at Chuba Hubbard's stretch last year when he took over, or Devin Singletary's stretch last year when he took over. These guys are top 12 running backs. So I don't want to say these guys have no chance at being like league winner, top 12 guys, but I do put them more as like the solid starter guys, more of a mid to low end RB2 with the chance to be an RB1. Ty Chandler, I put in here. I think the team really likes Ty Chandler. He actually might be a little bit more of a 1A, 1B. I just don't know, and I'm not confident enough to put him there because, again, 1A, 1B, I could justify starting all these guys. In my opinion, I think we're going to be justified starting all these guys. Spears, McLaughlin, whether it's like during bye weeks as a flex or deeper leagues. But I'm not convinced that Ty Chandler belongs there. I wouldn't be surprised if he does, though. Like, I think they're going to kind of like, they don't want to give Aaron Jones a huge workload. Aaron Jones, who is 29 years old, I believe, 29 years old, has never really had a big workload, right? Like, he's never really had this huge workload. His most carries in a season is 236 carries. And that's in a 16-game season. And that was all the way back in 2019 when he was 25 years old, right? 236 carries in a 16 games is less than 15 per 15 carries per game, which is good. But I'm just saying, like, he's never profiled as that type of running back, in my opinion. So I think they like Aaron Jones. They want him to be healthy. So I put Ty Chandler in the solid starter if something were to happen to Aaron Jones. Wouldn't be surprised if he is more of a 1A, 1B situation. Chuba Hubbard he's another one of these where he's going to be very good in September. Chuba Hubbard, I can almost guarantee you, is going to be at worst a top 20 running back, RB20, after the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season. At worst. Probably closer to top 15, in my opinion. Chuba Hubbard had a stretch last year. He had a stretch last year when he took over, like, clear cut for Miles Sanders. Chuba Hubbard was good. He was very good. Week 6, I'm going to look at week 6 onwards because week 6 is when he actually started to start. So week 6 onwards in half PPR, Chuba Hubbard, let's see what he was. Let us see what he was. He was RB18 in total points. RB18 in total points, RB24 in points per game. He was literally a low-end RB2, which is what I think he'll be in the first 4 weeks of this season. And who knows how long? It might even be longer. They have no reason to rush Jonathan Brooks. No reason. Why? Are you going to win the Super Bowl this year? No. Like, let Jonathan Brooks get healthy so he doesn't re-injure himself. I think Chuba Hubbard, not only he's kind of in his own category in that he's going to be good for the first month, and that is valuable, guys. Just think about when waiver wires hit in October, and there's a running back who you're projecting to get 3-4 weeks as a starting running back. How much fab do you throw on that guy? What waiver priority do you put on that guy? He's the first guy taken off of waivers. A 3-4 week stretch from a running back, you don't know what your team's going to look like in October. Worry about October in October. What is the first 4 weeks of my season look like? Chuba Hubbard is going to be an RB2. I believe we have one more here. I put Jamal Williams here. I'm definitely less confident about him here. I do think he's the handcuff or backup to Alvin Kamara. Kendrick Miller just can't stay healthy. The dude hasn't practiced since he got hurt week 1 or day 1 of training camp, right? Day 1 of training camp. And he's still not practicing, I don't believe. Maybe he's back at practice, but he hasn't played in any games. So, like, he is way behind. I think it's Jamal Williams / Taysom Hill as, like, the backup to Alvin Kamara. If something were to happen to Kamara, I guess Jamal Williams will be a solid starter. I'm not as convinced with that, but I will put him here for now. We have 3 more categories here. The next one is what I call not a true handcuff. I don't think these guys should be viewed as handcuffs in the sense of what a handcuff to me is if the starter goes down, that these guys are going to be startable. Their role is going to change. They're going to go from, they're going to take over a majority of the RB1's duties type of thing, right? To me, these guys aren't true handcuffs. I don't think their role really changes too much if the starter goes down. And that's what I'm not saying these guys shouldn't be drafted or don't have value. I'm just saying I don't really expect their role to change too much if something happens to the starter. Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I don't really expect them to maybe he gets a little bit of a boost, but I think they run more of a generic Prince mixes in and stuff like that if Isaiah Pacheco goes down. Justice Hill. We've seen this story before, guys. Justice Hill is not good at football. Like, I don't think if Derrick Henry gets hurt, they're going to just hand over the role to Justice Hill. I really, really don't think so. Tyrone Tracy. He's hurt right now, but if something were to happen to Devin Singletary, I don't think Tracy just takes over the main workload. He's a good pass catching, explosive player, and I think that's what the role they want him in. Limited touch guy to capitalize on the efficiency. Kenneth Gainwell, we've seen it before, year after year. Kenneth Gainwell, his role is not going to change if someone gets hurt. They'll use a mix of guys. They will use a mix of guys. And then who I have here is Antonio Gibson. Now, this one, again, I'm not as confident in. He might be close. He might be a solid starter type of player. I just don't know if the team's going to really give him the workload if Ramondre Stevenson gets hurt, right? I really don't know if they will just kind of give him that workload if Ramondre Stevenson gets hurt. I think they'll like him in his role, and I think he might be in PPR like flex worthy at times. I'm not saying he's worthless. I just think they kind of like him in the role of like, all right, catch the ball, get your 8 carries, return some kicks. And if Stevenson gets hurt, we'll plug in another player that we have on our roster type of thing, right? Next up, I have the unknowns, right? These are situations where I really don't know what's going to happen. J.K. Dobbins, is he a 1A, 1B? Is he a league winner if something happens to Gus Edwards? Is he just a solid starter? Is he not a true handcuff? Like, he literally could fall into any of these categories. So I put him into this unknown situation where I think there's some intrigue with all these players because all these players are like barely being drafted. In the case of Dobbins, he's going in, looks like round 12, right? These are like last bench player type of guys, or even guys that are maybe not even being drafted. Like the next guy, Elijah Mitchell, is just barely being drafted. He's being drafted in like round 14 or something, 15. But I don't know if he's the true backup, Elijah Mitchell. He's missed time. He can't seem to stay healthy. They seem to like Jordan Mason, the 49ers, that is. They have other running backs on the team besides just Jordan Mason. They drafted Isaac Guerrero. So, I don't know. I don't know if CMC gets hurt. Is it Elijah Mitchell? We think so, but I don't know. Same thing here. Is it Roshan Johnson if DeAndre Swift gets hurt? Or is it Khalil Herbert? Is it someone else? Do they just kind of keep Roshan in his role? And then I don't really know. Is Roshan our league winner? I have no idea, right? I'm willing to maybe take a shot on one of these guys as like my last bench player just because it could turn out. These guys could range from 1A, 1Bs to league winners, in my opinion, to solid starters. Or they could be nothing. I really don't know. Marshawn Lloyd is in that list as well. If something were to happen to Josh Jacobs, do they give Marshawn Lloyd the bulk of carries? I don't think so, but they could. But I think they also just work A.J. Dillon in more, right? Again, I don't know. And anyone that tells you they do probably is lying to you. Bucky Irving is another one. I like Bucky Irving a lot. Do they think he profiles as like he can take the workload, he can fill in for Rachaad White? I don't know. I really don't know. Are they going to use him more like a 1A, 1B? Possibly. That's where the unknown comes from. And then the last category is the last 3 players here. I call this the I guess category. I guess if the starter gets hurt, I'll pick them up because they're going to get a bump in production. But I just don't think these players are very good. Alexander Mattison, he had the starting job last year, right? He had a chance to prove it on one of the better offensive teams, especially in the beginning of the year in the Minnesota Vikings. Alexander Mattison sucked, to put it simply. He absolutely sucked. Dameon Pierce was on one of the best offenses in the league. They replaced him with Devin Singletary. And then they let Devin Singletary go, right? Which shows you what they think of Dameon Pierce. Really shows you what they think, right? Dameon Pierce sucked the first 8 weeks. His best game, he had 1, 2, 3 games in the first 8 weeks of over 15 carries. His best total in yards was 81. He had 2 games over 50 yards last year. 2 games over 50 yards, guys. 2 games over 50 yards. And that's it. Everything else was under 50 yards. The guy is not very good. I'm sorry. And then there's Tank Bigsby. I don't think he's very good. Now, he is one where I'd still, because we haven't really seen it from him. We haven't seen him get the job, get the workload type of thing. Maybe there's something there. Maybe he's a solid starter or something. Maybe he's more of the unknown. But I'm going to put him as I don't think he's very good. I will pick him up if something happens to Travis Etienne, obviously, but I don't think he's very good. So that's my handcuff ranking running backs. Most of these guys will be drafted, and especially guys, obviously the 1A, 1B guys are going to be drafted. League winners should be drafted. Solid starters, a couple of these guys, about half these guys will be drafted. Some of them may be dropped after a couple weeks because people can't afford to hang on to them. And all the other guys are kind of pick up if something happens to the starters. Appreciate you all very much. Fantasy football, the football season's coming, guys. I'm excited. I will catch you all in the next video.